Moo,
Hey,
how you doing today?
doing well. You sound better than last time.
Yeah, thanks. My voice feels better, so it's all good. All good. See, you got the same theme as me, huh? You got a little Hawaiian shirt going on, huh?
Yeah.
All
We
right.
can't go to Hawaii right now, but this is how I feel.
You can go to Hawaii.
Can we? I
Yeah.
thought you have to stay 14 days in a hotel or something.
No, they took that away.
They opened that? Okay.
Yeah. You just have to have the test results showing that you're negative.
Huh.
Yeah, within 72 hours of you getting there, and you're good. You're fine. So you should go.
I'll look it up.
You should go. I don't know if it's still cheap, but the tickets were cheap. They were like $250 round trip. You go to Hawaii, so that's a nice vacation. Take a break. We're gonna give everybody a few minutes to get here, and then we'll get started.
It's about $400.
That's still good.
Is it round trip or one way?
That's still not bad.
Yeah, round trip. That's not bad.
Not at all. Good deal. Get in there. Get to Hawaii. Enjoy. Go have some poke.
Ooh, there are cheaper ones.
Other places.
No, the date. So today, if you buy today, it's $400. But if you buy the week from now,
how much is it?
$200, $300.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. Yeah. Hey, there you go. You could be doing class on the beach or in Hawaii somewhere.
I'll feel much better.
I think everybody would feel much better.
Yeah. Hawaii will do that for you.
Yeah, Hawaii will do that for you, I'm sure. Oh man. All right, we're just gonna wait and see where everybody's at today. Everybody's running late, huh? No. We'll give them a few minutes and then.
Only 3 minutes in, so they still got time.
Yeah. Time's it. A few minutes, we'll wait and see what happens.
Wow, the sweets are really cheap.
Yeah.
It's a $70 sweet.
Where at?
Ohio Waikiki Studio. Not sure. In Honolulu.
No, yeah, but what's it called?
OHIA. How do you pronounce that? Ohio, right?
OHIA. Oh yeah, Ohio.
Ohio Waikiki.
What's the address?
It's on Kuhio Avenue.
Kuhio, yeah, Kuhio Avenue. Yeah, that's right. I know where that's at. It's probably like 5-minute walk from the beach, depending where it's at on Kuhio. But it's one of the major streets.
Has a pool and looks clean.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know where that's at. Is it an Airbnb or is it a hotel?
Says it's suites. So
yeah, last time
I guess it's kind of Airbnb because there's a kitchen in it, full kitchen.
Yeah, some of the rooms have that.
They have laundry in there too.
Yeah, some of the rooms have that.
Oh.
Yeah, it depends if it's a resort or if it's But yeah, I stayed in Airbnb.
But I'm pretty sure I have some points racked up with Hilton.
Yeah, the Hilton's not too far. Hilton's right there in Waikiki. Yeah, you should go. It's cheap.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about this now.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheap. Since COVID started, I've been to Hawaii twice.
Oh boy, I haven't been out of my house since COVID started. With one exception, last week I went to Hollywood.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about that. They have an event going on there.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and I was there to take care of the tech.
You got the what?
The technology stuff.
Okay. What was the event?
It's Family Film Award.
Okay.
So our university actually sponsored that.
Really?
Yeah, we are part of the sponsor. Of course, we're not the only sponsor.
Okay. Hello.
How you doing, boss?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Doing good. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll just go ahead and get started because it's right now. So bless you. We'll just go, and then we can end on time. All right. So any questions about anything? No? Anybody's good? No questions?
So we have the draft due on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
How rough can the draft be? Because it's gonna be pretty rough for me.
Yeah, it could be rough. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole point is just so I can see what you're doing and also know that you're doing something.
Okay.
All right, that you're not waiting till week 7 and then you're trying to write a paper. That's not,
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, that's why all those things are in place, and I don't grade those really hard because you're submitting something. I kind of want to see where you're going and what direction you're going in, so you should be good to go. All right. Oh, here comes Priyank. Check. Priyank, you there?
Yeah, Professor.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you
Good.
for asking me. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. You got any questions before we start?
No, Professor.
No questions? Okay. All right.
Uh-huh.
All righty, let's get this thing rolling. All right, so this week we're going to talk about pricing, right? So one important aspect of business, of course, is getting the price of your product, go to service right. Okay. In many instances, most businesses don't do a good job of really pricing their product because they don't really take consideration a lot of factors, right? So you as you start to price your product, you gotta figure, okay, what is the product I'm selling, right? How, what's my competitor doing? Is this a product that's easily accessible? Is this a desire or a want, or is this more of a necessity, right? Those things come into play. What's the climate like economically speaking? All right. Also socially, what's the climate like? Is this a product or service that may seem excessive at the moment or may not seem appropriate for the moment, right? So you got to think about all those things, right? And so when you, as a business, and you're trying to price your item, of course, your main objective is to make sure that you cover your cost, right? At the very least, you got to cover your cost, right? But honestly, what you want to do is cover your cost and then, of course, make profit, all right? But depending on what's going on, you may just have to kind of break even and be okay with covering your cost, all right? Because the aim is to keep the business going, all right? And to get it through a tough time, even if you're breaking even at the moment, eventually, as you start to grow the business, you'll start to get in the black and start to make money. But it all goes with understanding pricing and knowing when to adjust the prices, right? Not gouging, but adjusting the prices for the appropriate situation and to know what's going on, right? Because of the internet, and technology, we are now able as consumers able to do comparisons, all right? And we get price checks just like that. We can pull up the internet and go to Amazon and then say, hey, I want to look at this thing. And then if the price will come up, you can go find, or you even have the companies that have the price comparisons for you, right? Like if we go buy airplane ticket on Expedia or Hotwire or something like that, it'll compare. Or what's the other one? Expedia, Hotwire. There's another one. Travelocity. They'll compare the different prices for you from the different airlines and from different other places that offer tickets or ticketing services. And so you're able to see all the pricing. And again, depending on how quickly, you are wanting to buy the product, how much lead time you have, you can get a really good deal. Right? Moo and I were just talking about Hawaii, and Moo looked it up. And how much was the ticket, Moo?
Low 300s.
Low 300s, right? And that's for a ticket leaving today. I think that's for today's. That if you want to leave
The end of this week.
or for the end of this week, right? If you want to go to Hawaii at the end of this week, you'd go for 3 something, right? That's pretty good, right? Comparing to pre-COVID, where the ticket was at least $500-$600 if you were getting it maybe a weekend ahead. But if you were trying to get the same week, you were going to pay $700-$800 easy, all right? And so again, having the internet helps us to quickly and instantly really check prices, right? You can purchase your product right then and there and lock in that price, right? And there's a reason why, beforehand, we had, or they have, I should say, sales or different pricing on the internet as compared to going to the store, right? They had the digital, the internet specials and that kind of thing, right? Because they understand that the consumer is now on the internet. And most of us are doing a lot of shopping on the internet, right? Aside from the people like me who like to kind of feel stuff and touch like clothes and sneakers, but even then, I'll I'll buy something online as far as clothing and just take a chance and just be like, okay, you know what? If it comes, it doesn't fit, I'll send it back, okay? Because I'm gonna get a nice price. The other thing is that allowing me or having me on the internet, I get to have a variety of competitors, right? Again, it goes back to the comparison. Now I can look at all these options that I have that I really physically can't go to, right? Unless I go to the mall. And even to the mall, there's a limited number of stores that sell that particular thing I'm looking for, right? And so on the internet, I can go to all the sites, have all the tabs up, check out everything I want, do everything that I possibly want. I can put something in my cart, or I can buy something, and then if I see it's priced lower someplace else, I can go back and cancel that order, buy it here. And so companies keep all that in mind when they're thinking about, how do I price this product, right? How am I going to, again, get people to buy my product? They may very well say, you know what, if you buy the product at this price, you might get something free, right? Or, hey, let's make sure that we understand what the consumer purchasing habits are, right? And then they'll send you price kind of notifications, or they'll send you alerts like, hey, this thing is at $50, right? And before it was $70 when you looked at it, the price has dropped. Would you like to buy it now, right? Because they understand that you're on the computer, and this is kind of how they're tracking things. They're making sure that they keep a pulse of what it is that you want and at what price point you're willing to buy that. Because honestly, for them, 70 to 50, yes, it's a drop, but it's probably still covering more than likely that cost and some profit margin in there. Okay, because the clothes that we buy at 70 to $80 for a shirt or a pair of pants doesn't cost that much to make. All right, doesn't cost that much to make. All those other costs between buying it and then getting it made, buying it if you're making it yourself, then distribution, merchandising, marketing, that kind of thing, and just the distribution pipeline. All right, that adds some extra cost to it. But at the end of the day, the company is still making decent money, right? Even if they lower it a certain price, that's why they can do that, right? But again, if if you're online, it gives you such an advantage, right, as from being in the store, because in the store you kind of stuck with what's in front of you. Online, you can kind of go everywhere, take a look at everything, and really do a good price comparison, and that kind of thing. All right. So The other thing that we, have to take consideration is the pricing environment, right? We got the sharing economy, bartering, and renting, right? Okay, anybody want to explain the sharing economy? What does that mean? This is very relevant to more technology and the internet and that kind of thing. What does the sharing economy mean?
Uber, Airbnb.
Okay, Uber, Airbnb. What else? What else falls into that? Like when you say Uber, Airbnb, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean?
Well, Uber is ride sharing, right? People get cars and they don't use it all day, or they go commute. The car can sit
Mhm.
5 people. The only one guy sitting in there, so they just might as well pick up someone.
Okay.
Airbnb, there'll be people have maybe spare houses, maybe
Mhm.
spare rooms.
Okay.
Letting it sit there, it will increase in value over time. But if they want cash, might as well rent it out one day at a time.
Okay. All right. That's yeah. So what Musa saying is part of it, right? But the other part of the sharing economy is that because of technology, we have the ability to share things that we didn't have to share, we couldn't share before, right? So think about it, going back to Uber, right? Again, if someone calls an Uber, it doesn't matter how many people are in the Uber, the price is the same, right? So now what we can do is we can share the cost, unless it because it depends on the type of Uber you get, not necessarily the number of people you have in the car. All right. And so now if we get an Uber, we're all going to the same place. There's 5 of us. We can split the Uber. You see what I'm saying?
Like Uber Pool, right? Is that the one
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about?
Uber pool, right? Same thing with Airbnb, right? Hey, I have a house, like you said, it's empty. All right. So instead you go in a hotel, how about you stay here and I will reduce the price for you? It won't cost you as much to stay here as it would a hotel. That's a sharing economy, right? You have your Netflix password. Guess what? You can have 4 or 5 accounts on that and you give one to your mother, you let your sister use it, that kind of thing, right? That's part of the sharing economy because now we can share things that we couldn't share before. All right. And so that what that does, it lowers the price for us individually, but it also gives us an incentive to say, look, if I buy it at this price, I can spread the cost over 4 or 5 different people. So why not buy it? All right. So the companies are understanding that, hey, this is what's going on. This is why Netflix is trying to like curtail this practice,
Mhm.
right? Because they're losing a lot of money, right, doing this. But it's one of the things that makes Netflix unique. And I think it's one of the things that keeps their customer base intact because you can share your password and passcode and that kind of thing with other people and have various accounts. Now, don't get me wrong, they charge you for, if you have more than 3 accounts, I think it is,
Yeah.
charge you or something like that, right? But at the same time, most people don't have more than 3 accounts. And the minute like one person gets on it and they've exceeded the number of accounts authorized on the total account, it'll tell you like, no, too many people on here, you can't get on.
Yeah. And they provide you an option on buying that with one button click. That's upsell at work.
Right, exactly. So the sharing economy is huge, but it's principally driven by the fact that we have technology and that we can, now do this, right? We can share these resources we have and spread the cost over a number of people, right? Instead of just incurring the cost alone by ourselves, as we do with cable or with a taxi or something like that, right? Even a taxi was kind of a sharing economy, but you had to physically be there, okay? All right. The other thing is bartering, right? Bartering is still alive and well. Okay. Bartering is still alive and well. And so you have to kind of realize that you don't necessarily need money for everything. And pricing, when it comes to when it comes to pricing, really is about a comparison about the value of the skill set or the thing you want to trade as compared to the value of the thing of the skill set the other person has to offer, right? And relative to you, what is that value? Okay, it really is. It's relative to you. Now, if I'm, if I'm a person and I have a broken leg, all right, and I don't have any money for, I don't know, a doctor, but the doctor wants to build a new website, and I just happen to be a web developer. Hey, doc, how about you do my surgery? right? It's only a broken leg. You just set the bone and you're good. And I'll build your website for you and I'll manage it for you for free for a year. All right. So that is a value to the doctor that they may say, okay, cool. Now that's a unrealistic situation nowadays with the doctor, right? But you never know. If it's a family friend or something like that, they may say, hey, fine, I'll do it and that kind of thing, right? So bartering is still, kind of alive and well, where people are trading skills or things that they do well, all right, for things that they need. All right. Back in the day, if you were a blacksmith or you built a house or you were a doctor, many times that's how communities were built, off the bartering system. Hey, I have lots of, chickens, all right, but I need some cows. So I will provide you with a bunch of eggs, right, for the year, and you give me a cow, right? Or if it's just steak or meat I'm looking for, then you provide me with certain cuts of meat or whatever the case may be, right? So bartering is still alive and well. And the other thing is renting, right? Renting is crucial to our economy, right? And understanding how to price when it comes to rentals, right? Any type of rental, all right? Meaning rental cars, rental homes, right? So if you look at how COVID has really altered some communities when it comes to renting homes, right? The rental price for rental costs for rentals in San Francisco dropped, right? The rental price in New York dropped, okay? The only place the rental prices didn't drop is in California, right? In San Francisco, yes, but for the most part, California just went up, right? Every other place went up, okay? Again, understanding that there are a lot of people that need, places to live, but because of the pandemic, a lot of people weren't working, right? And so if you're looking at renting to something to someone, you kind of have to look at it and say, okay, what's the current situation? How we, kind of want to navigate through this and allowing people a chance to really have an opportunity to rent our place, right? With the understanding that, after this is all over, rents are going to start to go back up. Okay. The housing market in California, especially, has not gone down. Matter of fact, it's gone up, right? It's gotten hotter where there's very low inventory, really nationwide. There's very low inventory. Again, it goes back to, hey, labor costs are high, building materials are high, but that's because of COVID and the lack of, of the materials that we normally use for building, are not, readily available right now, right? So things have slowed down a bit, right? But you have to really understand, you know, when it comes to those particular aspects, renting and pricing, I'm renting and what you would call it, what I say, and bartering, excuse me, how to really price, your cost, right? How to make sure that you don't sell yourself short, but you don't price yourself out of the market either, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to have it, to where, across the street, that's $3,000 a month rentals, but then on the other side of the street, it's $2,000, right? Unless there's a distinct disparity between the two, right? The rent should be pretty similar in nature, right? But if you have a luxury condo, a luxury townhouses on one side of the street, you got like okay places on the other side of the street, then there's a reason for the price, difference, right? But at the end of the day, depending where you're at, depending what the competition is doing, depending what the market is calling for, right? What the market can provide, the supply and the demand, and then taking that in consideration, and then you kind of figure out how to price, right? All right. So when it comes to pricing, depending on the size of the company, all right, small companies, typically the person that owns the company or the person in charge, as far as the boss, is the one that sets the prices. Okay. And that's really based off usually their experience or what, the product cost them to get, and then all the other, operating costs associated with that averaged out over the number of products that they have, right? So really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lower and decrease my average cost, right? I want to decrease my average cost. Large companies, right, when it comes to pricing, really is about the higher, middle management, the guys that actually, kind of are the ones that manage the product line, right? Or the division, right? At that level, they kind of get into the pricing game because they understand the product in and out, right? They make it, they know how much it costs to make, they know how long it takes for it to from cradle to grave, how long the product's gonna last, all the costs associated with that, they know. So they're the best ones to kind of understand, like, okay, at the very least, this is how much it costs us to make, right? Now, what kind of profit margin are we looking at? Okay, what kind of profit margin we're looking at? And when we say this is how much it costs to make, we're including payroll, we're including, advertisement, we're including, all the other costs that go into making the product or selling the product are included in that cost, right? And that way we know everything else above that is profit. Okay, you want to make sure that you include, all those costs that actually go into delivering the product, marketing the product, you know, manufacturing the product. All those costs are part of the product cost itself, the product price itself, right? And so you want to make sure that you have that, included in the price, and then after that, whatever is on top, you put that to make your profit, right? So large companies normally do it at that level, right? But again, when it comes to how companies should price, it goes to, again, understanding the market, right? Understanding the environment, knowing your consumer, knowing the market itself, knowing what's going on in the economy, right? Is it slow economy? Is it fast? Is the housing market hot? Is it not hot? Is it seller's market? Is it renter's market? You gotta, or buyer's market, you have to know all these things, right? Are people, kind of not into big homes anymore? Are they trying to buy little houses? Or we had a situation where, for a while, nobody wanted to buy trucks, right? Nobody wanted SUV because gas was so pricey. So guess what? We reduced the production line when it comes to SUVs, and we start making more compact cars and more fuel efficient, or we're all kind of shifting toward EVs and that kind of thing, right? So it's an understanding of, okay, what does the customer want? All right. What does the consumer want? What does the end user want? Right. It's great that this is what I want to make, right? But is what I'm making something that people will buy? Right. That's the real trick, right? What I'm making, will people buy that? If no one's gonna buy it, then that's great. It can be a hobby, but you're not going. Yeah, it could be a nice hobby, but you're not going to make any money off of that. All right. And so you have to understand that.
So
Go ahead.
funny you mentioned the EV thing. The reverse is true as well, because one of my clients was a solar roof company. So when that kind of stuff gets involved, there's a lot of government rebate comes in.
Yeah.
When they do their pricing, they actually take that into consideration as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course they do, because they understand, like, hey, you're gonna get a rebate for that, but that doesn't have any impact on how much I'm gonna charge you. Matter of fact, I know you're gonna get a rebate. Guess what? We're gonna tack $5,000 more on top of that, right? Because we want to make sure we maximize that rebate, because that rebate's supposed to work both ways. Supposed to entice you to come buy solar panels, and it's supposed to entice us to keep making the panels, right? And so, yes, I'm going to include it in the cost, but at the end of the day, you're getting it from Uncle Sam, all right, which is really us. We're giving each other rebates at the end of the day, for solar panels, right? And so it does work both ways, all right? Because you want to make sure that, hey, I can take advantage of this price reduction. I know the consumer is getting these deals, these rebates, this reduction, right? This discount. Who? If it's not my discount, then guess what? I need to include that in the price, okay? Because the consumer is going to be like, hey, you just quoted me at $25,000, and I have a $5,000 rebate that's coming my way, right? The rebate, of course, is funded by the companies, right? The money that the government has for these rebates, the companies pay that. They pay the government a certain amount of money. It goes into this big pool, and then the government says, hey, if you go buy EVs, we're going to give you a rebate. That money comes from the manufacturers, right? I learned that when I worked at Toyota, how that worked, right? Toyota gives a certain amount of money to the government. So does Mitsubishi, every dealership, right? And then that does EVs. And they, cool, we're going to give your people a rebate, right? But that's why they put that pricing in there. Okay, fine, you're gonna get a rebate and we're funding it. Guess what? It's $30,000, right? When without the rebate, probably would have been 25,
Yep.
right? But
And they actually, I don't know about the auto manufacturing, but I do know about the credit card processing industry. So sometimes you got points, right? You got points and you got the cashback.
yeah,
The merchants pay that. The
yeah,
credit card company doesn't pay that. Yep.
yeah, no, yeah, merchants pay that, and the credit card company doesn't pay that. Credit card company don't care about none of that. They use it to their advantage, right? So people come get different cards, like, hey, my card does this and my card does that. You get free air miles and it's all this stuff, but they're not paying for that. The merchants are paying for that, right? But again, they pay for it because they know there's a draw, right, for the consumer to say, oh, this card does this. It gives them free miles with my airline, which means they're going to come to my airline and buy a plane ticket, which means that they're going to maybe check in a bag or two, right? They got to come to the airport. They're going to be in my terminal, right? So maybe they're going to buy some food and some, sit at the bar while they wait for their plane ticket, right? They may need a rental car. They probably going to need a hotel. All those things, right, go into the pricing and the thought of, okay, how do we structure something so we can bring people in, right, and price it just right, right? And just like we were looking at the tickets for Hawaii, right? They look at that, okay, what's going on, right? So think about this, right? For the most part, a lot of schools are on spring break, right? There's a pandemic, so people haven't been traveling, so they want to get people back into Hawaii, back into traveling, right? Us in California, for the most part, it's a straight shot, right? We get on the plane here in San Diego, it's straight to, Hawaii. So it's not a hard trip. There's not a lot of style unless you go from here to San Francisco and then San Francisco to Hawaii. Normally, you're not gonna do that unless you're going, unless you're going to Japan or something. You go from here to San Francisco and then take off, right? So they look at all that and say, you know what, we can afford to price it at $250 or $300, right? Especially if the person's planning out ahead long enough, right? 2-3 weeks, right? Imagine you look at it for 2-3 weeks later or next month, right? Of course, it's going to be lower because you have more time, but you also got to think about, like, as you have more time and you're pushing it further down, that it's running into the summer, right? And the summer is peak travel time, right? Because everybody's out for school for the most part, right? Or the kids anyway out for school. So there's a kind of decision has to be made as to, okay, yes, I can push it out till May, but May also means I'm going into summer months, right? Which means the pricing is going to change, right? The price is going to change. So now in Hawaii, it's kind of running into the rainy season, right? That's another thing about the pricing for Hawaii specifically, right? So they know it's going to be raining more often than it normally does other time of the year. And so they're like, you know what? We still want people to come because it's only going to rain in the morning and it might rain in the afternoon maybe, but the rest, for the most part, it's still pretty sunny and nice. So that's the pricing models for those people that know that, all right? And also for the people like you who are deciding, like, last minute, I want to take a trip, right? We don't have a full plane. So let's put a pricing plan out there that would at least get us a full plane, all right, which makes the trip worthwhile, all right? And then as time goes on, we will adjust and adapt to the changes in people's propensity to fly, right? Once they become more confident in flying, once they become more confident in the system and vaccine and that kind of thing, it's going to start going up, right? So now it's the best time to kind of plan out as a consumer, plan out your vacation, say, hey, I want to go here, in a couple of weeks. Let me buy my ticket 3 weeks out, lock it in dirt cheap. Like even like the Mexican airlines have this down pretty well. From here to go to Cabo or someplace like that is dirt cheap. It's like $100 round trip. Some tickets $75 round trip, right? But you have to fly to Tijuana to go to Cabo, but that's right down the street, right? You don't necessarily go to Tijuana, you go to the CBX, which is the cross-border station that you can go through. But either way, those pricing models are built, right, for like no frills airlines they will understand what's going on with COVID, and they have priced their tickets to adjust as such so that they have somewhat of a capacity that makes sense on the plane to fly, right? Because planes, if the capacity is less than I think 30% of the plane, they won't fly. They'll cancel the flight, right? People don't understand that they see a canceled flight, they don't know why the flight got canceled. A lot of times it's just that it's not worth it for them to fly, so they'll cancel the flight, right? Don't think you're gonna fly and you're gonna be the only person on the flight. Not happening. Not gonna happen. Okay, they will cancel that flight and be like, hey, we'll put you on another flight, or we'll try to consolidate all these flights and then put everybody on one flight that makes sense for us economically, right? So that's just the way it is, right? Another way, when we look at pricing is, reference pricing, price quality pricing, inferences and price endings, right? So all three different things, right? When we talk about reference pricing, we're just saying that, hey, from a business standpoint, all right, we're looking at the competition. We're looking at, what are other prices out there for our product, right? For what we're selling, what are comparative prices or what are prices that we've used before in the past that we can reference, right? And just say, okay, you know what? This is toothpaste, it's $2. How much did we sell this for last year? $2? All right, let's sell it for $2 or $1.95. Okay. It's not even much thought. It just, kind of like, okay, here we go. It's what it is. Price quality is a little different, right? Price quality more or less relates to, hey, is the cost relevant, right? Or appropriate for the quality that we're providing? Okay. Is there an inherent level of quality that the consumer is getting, that the consumer seems to think they're getting, right? That they will pay for and not worry about. Okay. Again, we go to Lamborghinis, high-end vehicles, high-end house, right? Anytime you pay lots of money for something, you want the highest quality you can get, right? And if something's wrong with it, you're like, hey, I'm paying way too much money for it to look like this, all right? Or for it to be this way, okay? It's like going to a restaurant and then you pay money for something, a drink or food. And it's like, this doesn't taste good. This doesn't taste the way I wanted it to taste. Can you send it back? I want to get something else, all right? And so there's a kind of relationship between the quality, right, that is expected and the price that goes with it. All right, you're not gonna charge me $1 million for a 1-bedroom shack unless you're in San Francisco or New York, right, or Hawaii.
It's not enough.
Huh?
$1,000 is not enough for a shack in
No,
San Francisco.
not enough, not at all. Okay. And when we talk about price endings, we're really thinking about like what the consumer at the end of the day is willing to pay for the product. Okay. What is the sort of the end goal when we look at the price endings, right? Is this the final price? Also, you got to think about that, right? A lot of times, companies don't necessarily, and bigger companies have a better handle on pricing because they have a lot more competition. They have a lot more money to kind of look at the market overall and that kind of thing. Smaller companies are where they kind of take a hit because they don't understand their pricing models because their product may, they don't do enough research, right? The people that are running the show, the bosses, they don't really take the time to really kind of like, what you gonna call it, do the research to figure out, okay, what price should I be setting it? And a number of times the people that are, the bosses that are setting the price, they don't necessarily always feel comfortable in shifting the price up or changing the price. Right? You have to really change the price. Now, it's important as far as like, let's just say you have a restaurant or something, right? And you don't want to fluctuate on the price too much because people come in to a certain restaurant, you may come in 2-3 times a day and you're used to that, to being that price. And if it's constantly fluctuating, it might get a little frustrating for consumers who go there all the time. But at the same time, you have to be able to say, look, there's no price on here because the prices are adjustable, right? They're based on market. right? So especially like if you have something like seafood, right? A lot of times you go to a restaurant, it says lobster. It says price, seasonal, right? Market price. It doesn't have a cost. It just says market price because sometimes it costs $20 to get a lobster. Sometimes it's 35, right? But the cost that they're passing on to you is basically the cost that they have to that they're incurring because of, maybe there was a low, season, right? They didn't catch that many crabs this year or lobsters. And so there's not that many to go around. So the price has gone up, right? So for instance, like even when we talk about, tuna, right? Tuna is huge, huge market, right? Or whaling, right? Huge market, right? And so tuna, gets expensive. You go to the tuna auction, you try to get the best tuna, but again, this is why if you have a high-end sushi place, the prices of the sushi fluctuate, right? If you're trying to get certain types of sushi, the tuna goes up and down, toro up and down, that kind of thing, right? So you have to understand that, hey, I have to look at the market, I have to see what's going on, and I can't be afraid as a business owner to adjust my prices because if I don't, what's going to end up happening? I'm going to end up eating it, right? And the consumer will be happy, but at the same time, if it continues to where the prices keep going up and I don't adjust my cost, right, to pass that on to the consumer, then I'm going to end up going out of business.
This for the restaurants, that's just an experience. But if you talk about a bigger concept, if McDonald's were to buy beef, not McDonald's selling beef. So if McDonald's has to fight the price fluctuations, it's not a good thing for a company that big. And that is why future contracts come in, right?
That's right.
I'm here to buy beef. I'm not here to gamble. So if there are people who want to gamble, sure, you have a separate thing. But the winning and losing, you take that. I just take the price I was promised on.
Yeah, and this is exactly why futures is futures, right? This is where it all came from because businesses were tired of like getting these variable costs. Like, oh, we had a winter freeze, ours is gonna go up, right? Or hey, we didn't have many cows, so that means we don't have much steak, and the price of steak is gonna go up. No, or the price of fuel is gonna go up. A lot of people don't understand that airlines buy fuel a year in advance or futures contracts, right? And so the price of the oil is already locked in and they paid for it already, right? From last year, they're negotiating prices now for next year, right? Because they don't want to play the fluctuation game, right? Like you said. And so this is why futures are definitely important in the game. And that's why companies like McDonald's and Wendy's and all those guys, they have a huge window in which to adjust their prices, but they typically don't need to because they've locked in the cost of their products, right? The cost of goods sold, they've locked that in already. So it's not so much of a concern for them. The prices could fluctuate a little bit, but if they fluctuate, it'll be basically mostly based off things that they do, right? That's why they can offer these discounts like, hey, come in for your 2-for-1 or your dollar menu, that kind of thing, because they already know, okay, we locked in our costs. This is the things we can do to break even and still make profit. This is our profit margin. We can still go down here and offer these different deals to our consumers. And as we offer these different deals, people will come in for $1 chicken sandwich that only really costs us 30 cents, right? Averaging out. And that's how a lot of restaurants work too, and they should, because restaurants have cost cards, recipe cards. And the recipe card has all the ingredients, how to make it, everything, and it says how much did it cost to make this plate, right? The average cost, right? All the ingredients taken into consideration, all the plating, everything, the chef, how much does this thing cost me to make, all right? And then after that, boom, I mark it up. And that's how much I put it, on the menu for. Excuse me. All right, so you got different couple steps when you're looking at setting the price, okay?
All right. I want to ask a question.
Yes, Olu, go ahead.
Yeah, but when you talk about locking in the price, locking in the price, are you saying that kind of going to pay in advance for that price, or is just a kind of a contractual agreement to say, hey, for the next 12 months, this is the pricing we are going to be getting for this
Yeah.
item, for this product, irrespective of whether the price drop or the price jump. But
Yeah.
this is the pricing we agree on. Is it that they are going to pay upfront for that, or is it a contractual agreement?
I'm gonna let Mu, you understand contracts, right? In futures.
Yes, future contract.
Go ahead.
Um,
I mean, I know it, but I want to hear what you have to say too.
So future contract is a standardized form of contract. And on the contract, it says three things. First is when will this contract be fulfilled? Second is how much, at what price point are you paying for the underlying commodity? And third is how much the commodity is, the unit. And you can buy it in chunk, you can break them down as well. So if you have a farmer issuing a future contract saying, at this price point, I want to sell it at this time, and I have 1,000, I don't know, name your commodity, 1,000 cattle I want to sell.
Pork belly, whatever.
Yeah. So if McDonald's comes in, hey, I just want to buy 10. Well, it's pretty much impossible, but a smaller version of McDonald's coming, I only want to buy 10. You can actually cut it up, or cut the contract up. And the third party, that's a commodity exchange or future contract exchange, would actually take the contract on, put it out there. So people who want to bet on it actually buy the contract, and whenever the price fluctuates, they put the cash into the account.
Yeah.
But nobody touches the cash until the contract is expired.
Yeah,
and at the expiration date, everything is just cashed out.
Yeah.
And people who bet on it, winner takes the money, loser, they just left their money in the account, and the money would be compensated to the supplier. So supplier doesn't lose a bunch of money comparing to the market price. And if the other way was true, if the speculator wins, well, speculator get all the money they want, and the restaurant would have to pay an actual price on the commodity.
Yeah, because it's still within the commodities market, the futures market, there's still people betting against or shorting and buying, right? So if I short the commodity, I'm basically saying that, hey, the price is gonna go down because it's not gonna be enough of the price is gonna go up, but there's not gonna be enough of the product to go around. So I'm thinking that it's gonna go up in price, right, in cost, right? And so most big companies like McDonald's, they have to operate in contracts and futures because they can't absorb that fluctuation on that scale, right? The other thing that is important about futures and commodity, you have to understand that McDonald's has to buy a certain amount of the product. Okay, it will be in the contract, right? Because they're not going to go to a supplier and say, hey, give me 10 bags of French fries, right? Because it's not worth it to the supplier. Like 10 bags, that's not worth it to me, right? You're going to buy a minimum number of bags of French fries because it does a couple of things. One, it locks in a certain amount of profit for me. Two, it helps me with production so I know how much, or I can estimate how much I'm producing for that year or for that time period, right? And so all these things kind of go into the futures and commodities. But at the end of the day, Olu, yes, you are locking in the current price of the commodity, right? Trying to hedge against future fluctuations, right? Or increases in the price. All right. Good, Olu.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. Thanks.
All right. So first step is selecting the pricing objective, right? What is our pricing approach? Okay. Different types of pricing approach, right? Some companies are strictly trying to just survive, right? They're just trying to break even and just stay in business for whatever reason. They're not trying to grow. And so their pricing model is all about covering the cost, right? I just need to cover the cost. Usually with companies that are like that, part of the cost, they've kind of wrapped or included payroll in that cost, right? Or paying themselves as part of that cost, right? So there's a couple of different ways you can pay yourself as a business owner. You can pay yourself through the business, right? Give yourself an actual salary, that kind of thing, and then you write it off. Or you can do it to where you don't, and then you kind of wait till after the profits are done, everything's over, then you take the profits, then boom, you get the profits and you decide how to do with that, or you can do pass-through income to where you included all this, your personal income and your business income. Depends on how the company's set up, how you set everything up, right?
You
But
can
a
also
lot,
invest it.
what's that?
You can also invest it back in the business.
Yeah, you can also reinvest
So
it back.
that would be a non-profit business model, right?
Yeah, that's a nonprofit business model.
I remember this because back in when I was getting my MBA, there was an MPA student sitting next to me, and he happens to be a school official. So
Okay.
they were talking about, he was chatting about how to allocate his surplus during that year, and he said the university cannot have a profit because it's a non-profit university. And so, we need to spend that money somehow. We're doomed if we don't, if that money sits in our bank account.
Yeah, you have to spend, when you're nonprofit, you have to spend the money somewhere, right? Your budget has to be pretty specific, and you have to allocate every cent, right? Where's it going, right? And so the best thing is to, okay, well, let's spend it on this, let's buy this, let's buy that, right? And most nonprofits typically don't have a problem, making money, right? It's just that you've made money, but you're nonprofit, so you got to figure out how to spend it, right? You can't take it and divvy it up amongst the owners or the vested parties. You're either going to, reinvest it or put it back into the company, or you're going to give it back to whoever you got it from, right? Or you can somehow, put a institutional pay raise for everyone across the board with it. It depends. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but you're right. Nonprofits are, definitely a little different when it comes to handling their pricing and that kind of thing, right? And of course, a lot of nonprofits, they're not trying to, make a whole bunch of money, but they need to cover their costs, right? They're a lot of times in survival mode, right? Then you have other businesses who are a maximum current profit, right? They're trying their best to, make sure that hey, this how much it costs, profit margin all the way at the top. Okay, let's max this thing out. How much can we get based on what's going on in the market? Okay.
Some ethical things get in it when you do that model.
Yeah, you got careful.
No, I think that was about 6-7 years ago. Mercedes in China gets in trouble, and their office was actually raided by
Really?
the government. Yeah, just because their pricing model is unethical. The way they did it is, if you buy all the parts of a C class, that money, the money it costs, according to the dealership, you can use that money and buy 17 same car.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the sum of parts costs 17 times as the car.
Yeah.
So if your car breaks down, you might as well buy another Mercedes.
Yeah.
So and the way they got away with it is no other manufacturer in China sells Mercedes parts.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not gonna, because they don't authorize it.
Yeah.
Mercedes.
So when it comes down to it, let's say you have I don't even know cars have spark plugs nowadays. Assume they have. Right? Yeah. If you have a spark plug that's broken, your choices are either pay, basically a crazy amount of money for a spark plug, or just buy a new Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends. Like, spark plug is probably not that situation. You can buy aftermarket spark plugs.
But Chinese car aftermarket is not well known, and a lot of situation, the regulation, traffic regulation doesn't allow you to use any aftermarket.
You have to buy. That to be
OEM
part.
That to go in, they just name their price.
Yeah. It's tough because the car industry really, they don't make their monies off selling cars.
Not really. Not anymore.
Service. It's service, right? Service is where they make their money. Selling cars, they might make, literally, I've seen, we might make $300 off a car.
Yep.
All right, and I was really surprised when I worked at Toyota to see how much they don't make on car. Like $300 a car, that's all we make. Yeah, but the service is where we get them.
And also the finance is part of it, right?
Yeah, the financing is part of it too. But normally, Toyota had its own financial services um, department, so they financed a lot of their own customers, and the rates were pretty good, pretty competitive. But yeah, if you finance it yourself as a manufacturer, yeah, you're making money there too, right? It's when the bank finances it, you're not making any money off of that. You're basically getting your check, and that's that. But
With the internet, you can't really do that anymore,
say
right?
that again.
With the internet,
Yeah.
the finance terms are commoditized.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, recently I was trying to buy a car. That's why I think about cars a lot. So I just put out a failure, and a lot of banks, a lot of car loan. I didn't even know they exist before. Those
Yeah.
financial company, they only do car loans,
Yeah.
nothing else. And they just reached out to me, call me. My phone is blowing up, and
Yeah.
the current rate is about, with my credit record, is about like 2 to 3%.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean they
highly competitive now.
yeah, they're very competitive. They found their niche, and so because of the technology, the internet, people they can reach out to you and send you all these offers. They can text you, say, "Hey, look, we know you're looking for a car. We can give you 2%, 3% if your credit score is like this, and then you're gonna come you're pre-approved
Yep.
for $30,000 at 2% interest."
Yeah.
So you can get a bunch of offers. But again, that's understanding, the market, right? And taking advantage of the market and understanding that people are going to be on the internet. And I can reach out to a bunch of people, and somebody's going to say, oh, you know what, that's a good rate. And they're going to come use their services. So, but the car industry, so it's such a very weird place. And there's a lot of profit margin in selling cars, especially used cars.
Oh yeah.
Lots of profit margin selling used cars, because I used to have a dealer auction, and I would go to the auction and buy cars. And people would say, hey, I'm looking for this car, and can you get it for me? Like, yeah, I can find it for you. How much? I like, hey, it's I go look, I do research, and I figure out how much is it selling for the auction, and then I put my profit margin on there. But normally it'd be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 extra on top of what I got it for at the auction. All right. But that price was competitive to what, in matter of fact, it was really competitive as to what they were seeing out in other places, right? They went to the car dealership, they'd be paying extra $2,000 more than what I was offering it for. So it was better for them to get it from me. They'd pay $2,000 more, less. I'd make my money. Everybody's happy at the end of the day. No harm, no foul, no harm. So, when you have when you have things like that, where the name of the game is to maximize profits, you have to be careful with that, and how far you can go with the profit margin, because it depending on, and we'll talk about this later on. We may not get to it, but depending if the product's inelastic or elastic, all right? Inelastic being that, hey, it doesn't matter what the price is, people are going to pay for it. And elastic being, hey, the product price and the demand will fluctuate accordingly, right? If it costs too much, people aren't going to buy because it's just not that important to them, right? At a certain price point, right? And so, depending on where that's at and understanding that, and then you can, say, you know what, I can increase the price of milk. I can increase the price of diapers. I can increase the price of fuel, of gas, because I know that's inelastic. People need gas no matter what. All right, they're gonna buy gas. All right, it's $5, $6 a gallon. Now it's not an ideal situation, right? That means something's gone really bad. But if you think about how COVID was going, right? When COVID first started, probably like 4 months into COVID, the gas prices were like two something. At one point we were at like 215, 220 a gallon. Right. I was like, wow, I haven't seen this in and no, never.
Ever.
All right. And then now if you go, now that we're getting back into the swing of things, gas is back up, right? So I think I paid three something for gas. I saw it 430 someplace. All right. Again, understanding the market, right? But if you also notice that during like natural disasters, and you see people that are gouging, price gouging people, right? That's illegal, right? Because that person is saying, look, I know there's a need. Everybody wants this thing, all right? And so because I know everybody wants it, I'm gonna jack the prices up, and I know that they're gonna pay for it, right? That's not right. That's illegal, right? What's gonna happen is people will remember that you did that, and they won't come to your place of business anymore because they know you gouged them, right? They know you took advantage of the situation, right? And so, like you said, in China, can't do that, right? You kind of have to, set your prices, and you can't make the components more expensive than the unit itself,
Yeah.
right? Also, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, remember that that guy a couple of years,
Pharma Bro.
yeah, he took what was it was it the EpiPen or something?
Yeah.
He took no, it was an AIDS drug.
AIDS, yes,
It
AIDS.
was an AIDS medication that cost, I think it was 30 cents or something like that to make, and he bumped it up to like $30 or something crazy. All right. And everybody was like, wait a minute, you just increased it from 30 cents to $30 a pill. Right. And so now that, of course, you know where he's at, right? He's in prison because it's not necessary that it was illegal. Morally speaking, was wrong.
I think they
And that
came up a law just for him.
was that.
Is that what happened? He was subpoenaed in front of the Congress, right?
Yeah.
So they basically just come up with a law on the spot
Yeah.
specifically just for him.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, because he got greedy.
Yeah.
He got greedy, right? And everybody understands you need to put a price adjustment in there, especially when you're talking about pharmaceuticals because of the amount of money that goes into, R&D. But this is a well-known, standardized medication that's been on the market for a long time, and everybody knows what the industry price is. Right? For you to go in and to jack up the price now because you saw an opportunity, got it. Smart business. Poor
That's
decision
wise.
morally. Yeah, poor decision morally. Was that price increase on a moral perspective worth your business? Not even worth your business. Now it's worth your freedom, right? Because he's in prison now.
Yep.
Right? He put him in prison for 2 years, and like, no, you can't do that, right? And so he didn't necessarily attack people's pockets. It was the whole fact that he had the nerve to do that, and it upset Congress because we already talk about how expensive pharmaceuticals are, right? How expensive drugs are. Instead of this is where when people aren't cognizant of the situation of the environment that they're working in, this is where they make these mistakes. Because from a business standpoint, if he had stepped back and look at the environment, then look at the climate as to which pharmaceutical companies are viewed, he would have realized that was a bad mistake. That was a bad choice to make, right? We're not going to go down that route, not for that drug, right? And so he would have understood, like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick here. We'll figure something else where to bring the price up, or maybe we'll bring the price up gradually over a couple of years, not all at once like that, right? People will understand that, and people can absorb that over time. He didn't have a good understanding of the environment, right? Or at least, even if he did, he didn't respect it. He didn't take it into consideration. He thought that he could just do whatever he wanted and he'd get away with it. Well, not happening. Okay, not happening. The other part, and when it comes to pricing, is the maximum market share, right? Again, trying to get as many people as we can to buy our product, right? And so what happens is, I'm gonna bring in my product super cheap, right? I'm gonna price it very low, right? Because I'm trying to work on volume here. All right. When I'm talking about market share, I'm talking about maximizing my volume. And so I want to get as many people as I can to buy my product. And one main key ways to do that is to say, look, hey, I got Nikes too. I have sneakers here too. All right. And I'm selling them for $10. He's selling them for 20. Same sneakers. Come over here. All right. Because eventually I will make my money back and more off of volume. Right. The problem is that as the price of the cost of goods sold is increasing, you have to increase your price also. All right. Your price has to fluctuate. And then the other thing is that, once you start dropping your price and everyone can buy the product, it starts to lose its value. It starts to lose its allure, right? Of being kind of like exclusive, right? if everybody could go and buy a Lamborghini, it really wouldn't be special.
Yep.
Right? Although it's still special on its own, the car is, a beautiful piece of machinery, just the engineering, everything that goes in it. But if you can go buy one, I can go buy one, we all have Lamborghinis, what's the point? Right? What's the value in that? Right? And so that's what happens when you work off volume and you're trying to maximize your market share. Many times, you your product loses value because everybody has one. There's no uniqueness, which is one of the major qualities or major components of pricing. Right? Has to be unique, rare. All right. And so if it's rare, unique, I can charge a higher price for it. All right. But if I lowball it because I want to work on volume, knowing that, and it works well if you have something like that's perishable, that's a consumable. Okay. So if I'm selling hamburgers next to In-N-Out, In-N-Out selling the hamburger for $2, I'm selling the same hamburger for $1. All right. That probably worked for me in the long term because I know that that's something that needs to be consumed, and people have to come back and get another one, right? If they want it again. Vice may be something that's a durable good, where a washing machine, how often in your life are you buying a washing machine? Once, maybe twice, right? So that model's not going to work, right? That model's not going to work trying to, maximize market share. You got to figure out another way in which to get market share. Probably is going to be more like product quality, right? So when we talk about product quality, we're more saying, hey, the quality of product is this level. Again, I'm pricing in at this. You're getting what you pay for, all right? You're getting a really good product. And most people are okay with paying a certain amount of money if their quality is deemed to be superior, all right? If the quality is low and it's priced low, good to go, right? It has to be proportional. But if the quality is low and it's up here, that's when you got a problem. Right? And this is where, again, price gouging may come in because of the situation, right? Oh, I'm buying regular old bottled water. It was $2 yesterday, but because now we have, a hurricane or water shortage all of a sudden, now it's $4, $5. It's the same nasty water it was yesterday, right? And the price hasn't changed. The cost to you hasn't changed. Maybe it's changed a little bit, but for the most part, probably hasn't changed much for you. But you want to triple, even quadruple the price to me because you see that, hey, based on the conditions or the environment, that I need to go ahead and try to, get what you more like get more money in because, hey, it's a good time, right? You need it. All right. Any questions so far? Comments?
Yeah, what I just want to say is that I'm surprised that in the list on the slide, I'm not seeing what do you call it, product life cycle as a pricing objective, and also what do you call it, when we talk about changing pricing, there are a lot of factors, just like the example you gave now. When a situation and hurricane happen, the pricing, the change in pricing may not be as a result of maybe the person is trying to take advantage. It may be because the distributor channel is jammed and it's very difficult to get that product across from the manufacturer down to the retail shops.
Okay.
Or to the end. So that's in between the channels. So there are a lot of constraints, and that constraint makes the what do you call it, the price to go up.
Yeah.
So,
The
for
point.
me, pricing is a complex subject.
Yeah. No, it definitely is complex, and the point that you bring up is very valid because we had that situation happen in some semiconductors and transistors, right? And that affected motherboards. So Taiwan had a tsunami or something, a bad storm a few years back, and that's the capital basically of semiconductors, transistors, and everything, motherboard for Dell, Apple, all of them, right? They all get their stuff from Taiwan. And so there was a natural disaster in Taiwan, and they basically had to shut down, and they had a very limited amount of the product, right? And so what they were doing was only providing the product to big companies, right? Apple, Microsoft, Dell, only that big clients. All the small mom and pop companies that they worked with were not getting the product. And if they were getting the product, it was costing them more because normally they probably didn't have any contracts, as far as like future contract. More than likely, they were a small company. They probably didn't have any big contracts, right?
That's the advantage of the contract. What do you call it? Agreement in respect to pricing.
Yeah, no, you lock the price in. It's good and bad. You could lock the price in and then it drops, right? And then so you kind of lose on the advantage. Yes, you lock the price in, but when you bought it, it was 20 cents, right? But now it's 10 cents.
Well, it's good to take it up. I believe there will be some team within the organization that is looking into that contract, because you can't just enter the contract blindly. Maybe there will be a kind of a study to know that, okay, at this certain time, this is the price that this item will go or will fall or will increase. Mm-hmm. At this certain time, this is the price, or at this season, this is the price, and that can be inputted into the contract that, at this time you are buying at this price, at this time you are buying at this price, at this time you are buying at this price. So if the producer or the manufacturer agree to that, put fire, then that's a good one for them. So there'll be a department. I believe there'll be a department in the organization that will look into that price. That contractual locking in the price. So for them to say, wait, let us go back and see how price play with respect to this item, and then from our understanding or from our research, then we are going to go to contracts to lock in at our pricing at social time, our social period, also. So that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing about, like, even if you think about like the airlines, right? And the airlines, they locked in the fuel prices for this year, last year. And then they didn't fly as much, right? And the fuel prices went down, right? Fuel prices went down. So I'm sure they're like, there may be a clause in there for them to go back and renegotiate. I doubt it. But the price of fuel went down. So they overpaid for it based on the fact that, COVID hit, but there's no way that they could have seen COVID coming, right? And so unless they had a force majeure, anybody familiar with the term force majeure clause? No? No? You guys know what a force majeure is? Moo, you looking up?
Yep.
Okay. I hope you spell it right.
Yeah, unforeseeable circumstances that prevent someone from fulfilling a contract.
Right? So if you have a force majeure clause in there, then you can go in and say, hey, you know what? Based on this COVID that we didn't see coming, we want to come back in and renegotiate, right? But you have to have that clause in there, okay? So this is an important part of commodity trading and futures trading. Right?
Okay.
To understand and say, hey, look, we understand we're locking the price in, but if some event occurs where no one saw it coming, we need to have the right to come back and adjust prices. So I'm sure that's what the airlines did, right? They have a force majeure clause in there that says, hey, based on natural events, right, that we don't see hurricanes and that kind of thing probably aren't in there, just because we understand hurricanes. They're a little more predictable. Weather systems are a little more predictable, right? But something like an earthquake or even, COVID, right? That came out of nowhere. Nobody knew we were going to be sitting in COVID this long, right? And so the force majeure clause probably kicked in, right? But for those companies that didn't have force majeure clauses in there, they pretty much got stuck, with the prices they agreed to, right? And the price could have gone down, but guess what? You paid, you locked it in thinking it was a good deal, and it was a good deal then, right? It's just that whatever happened, the deal went, kind of dropped. So it's just the way it is, right? But at the end of the day, as Taiwan started building back up, they went to, trying to figure out, okay, how do we start getting our business back to the small mom and pop companies? Although Apple and Dell and Microsoft are their major, purchasers, they still have to cater to the smaller guys, right? Because that's still a large part of their business, right? Apple and those guys can only buy so many, right? And we still have a good amount of inventory left that we need to sell, and we need to sell it to the smaller companies, right? And so trying to determine the price, on goods like that, and in taking in consideration what's going on, as far as natural disasters and that kind of thing, is important, right? The other thing is, it's how do we determine demand, right? And trying to figure out, okay, how's pricing gonna affect demand, right? First thing we have to look at what the demand is, right? What's the demand level? And if it's something that, as it says, if it's elastic or inelastic, right? Inelastic products, the pricing really is kind of irrelevant. Okay, I don't say it's totally irrelevant because I'm not an economist, so I'm not gonna try to play one. But for the most part, if something is inelastic, it doesn't matter how much it costs, people are gonna buy it. Okay, and so you can price it however you want. Okay, it doesn't matter because people need it, they're gonna buy it. That's just the way. They'll complain about it, but they'll still buy it, right? But if it's inelastic, this is where the trick comes in. This is where the understanding of the market, understanding of the consumer, understanding of the environment, understanding of the economic, conditions that are happening right now, right? And saying, okay, how do I price this thing, right? So, at this point right now, if I was a business, right? If you were a business, what considerations would you take in your pricing model if you're trying to price a product or good or service at this moment right now?
Are you talking about service or goods?
Either one, service or goods. What considerations what would you think about now as far as like, okay, I'm trying to price this and understanding like, okay, is it in the right, am I pricing it right? Is it too low, too high? What would you think about in order to help you price the product or goods or service?
For me, the first thing for me to do is to do a research on the trend in the current situation we find ourselves globally.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic is a key determinant in whatever anyone is doing, any organization is doing presently, because it determines a lot of things. It determines how you come into the market. It determines how you price and all those stuff. So for me, first thing for me to do is to go on a research, looking at the trends for the pandemic, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. Then that if I'm providing a service, then one of the things I should take into consideration is that my service must be a kind of contactless, must provide as much as possible a contactless service, because that is what everybody is. That is the norm now.
Right.
So that will help me to know, okay, if I'm doing contactless service, then I should be able to put in some what do you call it? Some procedure to enhance my service. Okay. And that can also affect what pricing I'm putting in place.
Okay.
So that's the way I see it for service. But for goods, depends on where my goods is reaching. Is it for basic needs? Then if it's for business, I have to go with the flow. Okay. I have to go with what others are doing.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Well, the stimulus checks,
Okay.
that definitely goes into the consideration.
Okay, good. All right.
And I guess the markets have to play a role as well. Really depends on what kind of product you're selling.
Yeah.
If I'm selling food, I'm selling rice.
Mhm.
Well, I can name my price.
Yeah.
People need it. If I'm selling even crazier food, I was actually playing with this a little bit early on earlier during the pandemic. They call it meal ready to eat packets.
MRE, yeah, I know.
MRE. So I work with one of these companies. So they basically named their price and it fly off the shelf.
Right.
And they got sued immediately. Not sued, they got a lawyer's letter, a couple of lawyers letter, and the owner just got immediate cold feet, and he's like, I'm out. But they made I think $8,000 in 2 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's how fast internet traffic can go.
Yeah, but that means the demand is there
Yeah.
for the product. So both your answers were good. And so what I was looking for, more or less, like from my standpoint as a business owner, somewhat Olu said, right, taking into consideration how I'm providing the service, right? If I'm doing contactless, if I'm not, necessarily providing a full service to someone who's coming to get food, they're doing takeout, right? Should I be expecting a tip, right? For that particular, exchange, that transaction, right? If I'm not expecting a tip for that transaction, then what does that mean for me for payroll, right? And compensating my people, right? I may have to bump the price up a little bit because I know that we're not getting a tip, right? The main things that I would look at, especially now during this time frame, is one, like you said, the stimulus checks, right? And two, tax returns,
Mhm.
right? People are getting a stimulus check, they're getting tax returns. Guess what? They want to spend that money, okay? And so, depending on the product, like you guys said, I would price it to where, understanding that people are probably more open to spending a little bit more money because they have a little bit more money, all right? Uh, Especially when all the people that were getting extra unemployment money, right? They were getting extra $300-400 a week for being on unemployment, right? That's extra money they didn't have that that a lot of them are willing to spend. Now, the traveling and maybe bars and restaurant where they would normally spend it was not an option, right? So the only other place to spend it is in retail, really, like buying clothes and that kind of thing, right? And so again, I would look, those are the things I would look at specifically right now for this quarter. I would look at, okay, can we adjust the pricing in order to take advantage of this extra money that's going to be hitting the economy? All right. And how do we do that? Right. But both your points are valid and would be part of the equation. Right. Probably more long term than short term. But when I'm more looking at, okay, right now, short term, this quarter, because of, the two streams of revenue coming in, two streams of money coming in. I need to understand, like, some families are getting, $8,000 from the stimulus check, right? And then on top of that, they're getting the taxes. So they may very well $10,000, $11,000 this month or this quarter. Within the next 3 months, they're getting an $11,000 influx. All right. How are they going to spend that money? All right. And how can I take advantage of that? Right. From a pricing standpoint, how can I price my product to stay in line with what's going on with this extra money? Because I know it's going to come back to the economy, because that's the whole point of the stimulus package. It's for people to take the money, put it back to the economy. The economy keeps going and growing. It doesn't die, it gets better. Right. And so because of that, I should have a plan on how to, kind of do that. Right.
Prof,
Yeah.
one of the mystery that or one of the things I find kind of a mystery to me is that, I mean that during this time that people are getting this so much money, my thinking thought was that maybe people will use it to settle and to get out of debt.
Yes.
But instead, they are just using it to upgrade their wardrobe, or upgrade their car, upgrade their house, upgrade their what they call it. But the debt is still there. So I think the first thing that should come to someone like me, I have that kind of money, is to first settle my debt. To stop, first thing is for me to pay off my debt or to reduce my debt.
Yeah.
It's not about upgrading my car. It's not about upgrading my wardrobe. It's not about upgrading my, or I can use it to invest in myself, or to go and get a skill set, or get a degree, or upgrade my degree, or what you call it. But what I found, just like you said, a lot of advertisement is on, come and buy a new car, come and buy a new furniture, come and buy what you call it. And my question was, why is it like that? Why is it that people can't think about, reducing their debt first before going to upgrade their wardrobe, upgrade their car, upgrade their what they call it? It's a mystery to me. I don't know what's going on.
Consumerism for you.
I want to say it's consumerism, first thing. Second, the psychology of people. Think about it, right? Would you rather pay a bill or make yourself feel good? Right? Most people, 9 times out of 10, right? Which is the real problem when we're talking about finances, financial freedom, and people getting out of debt. All right. Most people will take extra money, or a lot of people will, and they will buy things that make them feel good. Okay. Because debt is, at the end of the day, debt for a lot of people, it just kind of like, it's an imaginary thing, sort of, right? Yes, they know they have the car, right? They know they have to pay the car payment, right? Or they don't have to pay the mortgage, but it really is like an abstract thought in their minds when they're comparing it to other things going on, right? Some people let debt really worry them, and they say, okay, fine, I'm gonna pay this debt off. But most folks are like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and, make myself feel good, because I could go outside right now and get shot and die. Okay.
All debts are come.
Yeah. So that's the way people really think. They think, I can pay this bill later, right? Which is the way the system is set up, right? This is the way credit is set up. Because as a creditor, as somebody who's like extending you credit, I want you to keep that credit as long as possible, right? Because I want you to pay as much interest as you can off of it, right? Because I don't need the money right now. I gave it to you for a reason, right? Because I want to make money off of it. Because at the end of the day, when you're done, I lent you $100,000. You want to finance it for 5-6 years? Go ahead. Guess what? I just made $20,000-$30,000 off of you. You paid off the loan. I got my principal back, and I made 30-40 grand off of you. All right. And I'm doing that to everybody. So I'm making money. But most folks, they're not, they're not, and they see it as extra money. So because it's extra money, that means I don't necessarily need to like allocate it to my bills. I need to allocate it to something that's gonna make me feel good, that I like.
Yep.
Okay. And this is the hope. This is the whole, unfortunately, this is the whole foundation of the stimulus, is that they are counting on people to go out and buy things. Paying bills, putting in the savings account, that's not what we want you to do with the stimulus.
If they do that, that's actually very dangerous for the economy, right?
Yeah,
they put all the money back into the bank.
Yeah, it's bad for the economy, all right? Great for the banks, bad for the economy. And then the banks aren't really lending any money, all right?
Yeah.
So the banks are gonna make buku money off of the money that you're putting in the bank, that you're thinking like, I'm saving it, or you're gonna pay a bill, right? But the stimulus is not, that's not what the stimulus is built for. The stimulus is built for spending. They want you to put it back in the economy to keep the economy going. But at the end of the day, foundationally speaking, or from a more of a kind of a, I don't want to say prehistoric, but more primitive, instinctual standpoint, we're gonna buy things, we're gonna do things that make us feel good. We got extra money, I'm buying it. I'm taking a trip to Hawaii, or I'm gonna put some new rims on my car. I'm gonna go upgrade my speakers in my car. I'm gonna do something for myself. This bill here, all right, I'll put $20 on the bill. I owe $50 this month. I put $20 on it. They'll leave me alone. They'll be okay. right? Because they're getting interest. They don't care. And then you, on the other hand, you're saying, you know what? I'll give them a little bit. I have 3-4 years to pay this loan. I'm not really worried about it because interest is, again, an abstract thought.
Mhm.
You don't think about that you're paying interest on something, right? You just don't think about it. You just think I have to pay this payment and that's it. You don't think about the interest that's associated with it. And at the end of the day, when you are looking at how much money you paid from a minor loan, you're like, oh my God, I paid this much in interest? Yeah. Yeah. And you could have paid it off, but instead you used it to do other things, which is, like I said, that's what it's about.
I totally learned that the hard way. I didn't have any student loan thanks to my parents. They paid for my college education,
Mm,
and then I started making money. But I just made this plan of paying off my credit card loans because they paid my tuition. They didn't really pay my everything else.
right.
And by the moment I actually step in a bank, I kind of want to do it dramatically. It's I can totally do that online, but I just want to go to a bank and see somebody and just say,
Right.
"Hey, here's your money. We're done."
Well,
Turns out I paid them off. I pay a lump sum of I think $25,000,
mm,
and turns out 70% of that is interest.
Yeah.
I carry that balance for a pretty long time, but still, I only spend less than one fourth of it, right? 30% of it, and then all the rest is interest, which is
Mhm.
pretty mind-boggling. And also the stimulus check amount is very interesting because average Americans own about $6,000 on credit card.
Mhm.
Other debt we don't count, but just credit card. The reason they're not paying that off is perhaps they don't want to think about it. You only give me less than $2,000. What am I going to do with it? Right?
Yep.
Paying off credit card, I'm still going to be charged interest. Why not just let it keep growing? Right?
Now it's gonna be struggling.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Why am I gonna give my $1,500, $1,600, $2,000 away to a credit card company when I could use it to buy food, buy things that I want? Because if I pay $2,000 to my credit card, big deal. Because I'm gonna turn around and use the credit card anyway,
Yep.
right? And so unless you're someone that's trying to like actually knock out the debt, it's kind of pointless
Yeah.
to do that, right? And then even in such a way where you go buy a car, when you're making your car payment, the first couple of years, it's all interest you're paying. You're not paying any of the principal down. It's all interest. It's not till like the third year maybe you start paying down the principal, and then you see it start going down a lot faster. But for the most part, you're paying interest. You're paying interest. What time is it, Moo?
7:03.
7:03. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stop here. I want you guys to take the quiz. Okay. And then I'm gonna send out the password. All right, that's the password. Everybody get it? Priyank, you there?
Yes, Professor, I'm here.
All right, all right.
No
Too
worries.
quiet,
Yeah.
man. Too
I
quiet.
know.
All right. I just want to make sure. Did everybody get the password?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So go ahead and start the quiz. And then when you're done, let me know.